So I've been having some real frame rate troubles with XPlane 12. Granted, I'm running a what is this, five monitor setup, but the system is actually not loaded. I've got 3 screens running on an RTX 3080 and 2 screens, the little G1000 screens, running on the onboard Intel video from the motherboard. And with everything else off that I can possibly turn off, I am getting a frame rate of a maximum of 30, currently showing 25 because I've got some other screens up here that do kind of affect the frame rate, although I don't know why those should, given the way the CPU currently is. So, I know that XPlane runs mostly on a single CPU. There's actually, some of these other little smaller green spikes are actually XPlane as well. It does run a couple processes, a few. I think I forgot the name of the audio system. That's probably the second major thing that uses the CPU. But if you look here, the CPU is running at, I think it's peaking at like 30 something percent there. It's nowhere near maxed out. The green that you see in there is XPlane, and I'm showing a frame rate of 25 right now. And then if we go down and look at the video card stats, we've got let's see, on the left-hand side is this GPU usage is somewhere around 50%, and the memory is nowhere near maxed out. And all that's because I've turned down every single setting in the settings. And I'll show that in a second. If you look at the master process list using sysinternals, XPlane is the top one, but it's, 2%, but that's of course because it's only using one processor really, which is a real pain. We'll come back to that. And if I show you, I'm going to show you just for proof here. Let's see, I've got to use a mouse while I'm holding a cell phone, which is a little bit of a problem. Apologize. I'm not a pro YouTuber here, but every single one of my settings is down. All of them. Now, granted, I am using the 5 screens, but the system is nowhere near loaded, so I wouldn't expect it to be performing as poorly as it is. In fact, I'd expect it to be somewhere around 60 frames a second the way it's going right now. And I might be happy with 30 if I turn some of these up. But at this, with everything basically off, I would expect something like 60. Another thing I've done just to try to isolate things, I went to the plugins and I turned every plugin off except the plugin admin itself. So those are not running. I'm not currently running Air Manager. It's off. Air Manager does impact the performance. Let's take a look at that. Although again, nothing is maxed out, so I wouldn't expect it to impact the performance very much. Let's see if I could turn on Air Manager. Did that go on? There it goes. Turn on Air Manager. That's on. My side monitor is coming up here. Let me minimize that to get rid of that. It does flash the GeForce stuff a little bit when it first comes up. I'll minimize that just to kind of get it off the screen. And my frame rate dropped to 24, but of course all these other windows went away. So, apples to apples. Let me put those back up. Okay, so those went. So we dropped from 25 before to 22, 23, something like that. And again, looking at the CPU graph here, really not maxed at all, like 30 something percent. This other one did kick up over here. I'm going to guess that that's where Air Manager is running on that one. Perhaps. It's written in Java. Not really a great threading environment, unfortunately. So I don't know what that's doing, but So let's go down here. I put up Air Manager. We got maybe a slight GPU increase, very slight. I think that's probably me more playing with the windows a little bit. For whatever reason, our graphics memory did kick up a little bit, even though it's not running on the main GPU. It's running, maybe it's because it went up on that screen and then came off that screen. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why that would go up, but so that's with XPlane running. I'm now down to pretty much an unacceptable 22 frames per second. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn off the side screens here, the two side monitors. Or maybe I'll just turn off one at first. Shoot, this went to here. Now I can't get. Can I get to the menus? Maybe it'll let me get to the menus still. Let's turn off monitor 1 and see what happens. And we come back. Oh, look at that. 30 something frames a second. Now, again, apples to apples, I'll put these other screens back up. Okay, so I'm at 31 frames a second. Nothing really majorly changed in processor. Nothing, well, maybe. Let's see. All right, actually, maybe we dropped processor on. Maybe the processor dropped a bit here, getting rid of it. Yep, that's what it looks like. So, but still, it wasn't loaded. So why would it be slower? And given that the model for the environment doesn't change by turning a screen on or off, that's GPU. But even GPU didn't really change much. I mean, here we are on the GPU, hovering around 50%. Memory dropped slight little bit, but the frame rate went way up. Now let's drop the other side monitor. Try that. And I really don't like this layout. It tries to make these boxes laid out exactly like the Windows one, and I don't see the need for that. So if we make that one unused, oh, look at that. Now I get 60 frames a second. And none of that is GPU throttling. That's all processor based for some reason. So let's apples to apples, put this back up. That back up. Put that back up. All right, now I'm getting 50 something frames a second. So purely by adding two screens, I go from 55 frames a second roughly down to 25 by adding two screens. And CPU, it's not like it dropped 2/3, but it did drop a little bit. It's still running there. So and memory down here dropped a little bit. GPU didn't drop any. Again, I don't understand why, when the screen is mostly rendering a model of the environment, or should be, and the physics of it are calculated in the computer and the CPU, the physics of the environment shouldn't change any, I wouldn't think. And I'm sitting on the ground, by the way. The plane's not running. I've got the avionics aren't on. It's not running, nothing. It's just sitting stagnant on the ground. Just for ha-has here, let's throw some settings up here. Let's do let's see. I believe the left side is, I can't remember what Mike says. He says one of these sides is CPU, one of these sides is GPU. I'm going to guess a lot of these settings on the left have to do with the GPU, so I'm going to throw those up. Let's just go 50%. Hit done. And no real major change in the speed. Let's go turn all these things back on. Okay. Actually, the CPU seems to have dropped a little bit, but that might be because the weather changed here. Memory is back up. That makes sense. And graphics utilization's up a bit doing that. So let's just max out that side of things. Whoops. I'll come back over here. We'll max out the graphics settings. And this is RTX 3080. It should be able to handle all this. Click done there. Of course, we got redraw. That was pretty quick. That did affect our rendering. We're now down to 40-something, 42 frames a second. Let me pop up those screens again. Yeah, now our GPU is way up there. All right, GPU limited right now, for sure. Which is interesting. It's only one widescreen monitor, basically. Kind of wouldn't have expected that, but so let's get us back down so we're not GPU limited anymore. Let's throw I suspect it's this rendering resolution that has most to do with that. We'll leave the texture quality up. We'll put down everything but that full resolution. I bet it'll stay pretty high. And let's see. Now we're back. Well, we're back up to 58 frames a second. That's kind of interesting. And we're down to about quite a bit down on the graphics card now from that. Interesting. Okay, so it's one of them. We'll have to go more and figure out which one of those is exactly the one causing the most GPU utilization. Memory went way up again, though. Continues to go up. It's almost like it's not releasing memory as I change the settings, so that's kind of strange. Let's go to... Let's put these back. So still never hitting peak on the CPU on any of this. And then let's now go to the right side and change the settings. So let's put up cloud quality. I don't have any clouds in front of me. They're off in the distance kind of here. Done. And pretty big drop. Oh, nope, back up at 60. So that's not too bad. I'm not going to bother pulling up the other screens because it's back up to 60. Let's pull up shadow quality. Let's do that up too. And I'll do that. Interesting. That's making that take a while to load. Still at 60 frames a second. Not bad. So it's like most of the impact is just drawing these extra screens for some reason. Rendering distance. I know world objects definitely has an impact. We'll get to that next. Let's climb back up there. Let's check out our graphs, see where we're at. So graphics, not too bad. Memory's kind of up there still, hasn't really dropped. Now, if I throw up world objects, that's probably going to kill it, but I'll do that last, only because I know that that's going to have some impact. Let's do vegetation density, throw that up. I apologize. This is going to be a somewhat long video, but I think the guys at XPlane need to be aware. Okay, that definitely had a major impact. 10 frames a second. So where did we go with that? What did that impact? Okay, so I got kind of crazy graphs all over the place at the moment there. I think the problem, we're CPU bound at this point, or GPU bound, sorry. GPU bound. One monitor though. One monitor sitting on the ground, not even moving. So we're like memory locked and GPU locked at this point. So I need to bump that down. It's unfortunate that, you know, all these new features, and even with a really pretty, what I would call a modern card, can't use it to the fullest here. So let's put vegetation down to medium. Let's see what that does. Take a little bit to load. There we go. Still not so good. So vegetation definitely having an impact. Still wonder if this thing is releasing memory the way it should be. Kind of wonder if I restart the app if it would be better, but I don't want to do anything I wasn't doing already. Maybe at the very end I'll do that. And then let's see. All right, let's see. You know, actually a test for that would just be turn the vegetation off again, see if it goes back to running well enough. Well, that didn't work. So yeah, I think there seems to be a problem with memory release when you change these settings. I think I don't have a choice. If that's the case, I don't have a choice but to restart right now. So maybe not releasing memory on changing settings. Probably need to reboot after changing some of these things. And if it's locked and I can't get it to drop down, I'm probably going to have to reboot it at this point. So let me start that over. Not what I wanted to do, but I will do it. Quit that. Let's start it up again. And we'll go with new flight. Same configuration it was before. Okay. And yeah, look at that. Interesting. Back up to 60 frames a second. So I suspect it is not releasing memory fully, at least. Let's see, we're back to 78, 80% GPU, 60. The memory's dropped down quite a bit. Oops, not sure why that changed. I want to do one graph per CPU. And let's just make sure this is still XPlane. Yep. Using 42% of that GPU. So it's not CPU bound, which is the we always expect it to be CPU bound, but it's not, and it still doesn't deliver great frame rates, even with the GPU not fully loaded. Let's go back here. Let's turn up world objects. Just for ha-has, I'll put it maximum. It's probably gonna dog the GPU at this point. Might bump down the full resolution rendering. Maybe that's what I'll do, just to keep the GPU happy. Yeah. 33, 34 frames a second. I'd actually prefer running at this mode, 30 frames a second, have more density, have the environment look a little better. Let's see what the GPU is doing here. CPU. So we're kind of back down to our base at 25 frames a second. 2 monitors off. I get, and turning on some features here, I get 25 frames a second, which was what I had when I had nothing on but 2 extra monitors on. GPU actually dropped there, which is interesting. And memory went up. Why the GPU would drop when I add more world objects, I have no idea. That's kind of strange. Why would it drop by adding more objects? Bizarre. Like I said, I don't really understand some of the behavior of this, why things would be as bad as they are in certain scenarios and not in others. Well, I guess it's because I turned off the vegetation entirely. That's probably it. I might have to maybe keep it off. I don't know. Put up vegetation 1 level. Let's see what that does. So we have something. And then we'll see what happens when I turn on the monitors with everything up the way I would like to run it at, which would be something like it's at right now. So the other thing about this is that I don't understand is, this runs in multi CPUs, right? Or multiple computers it will run and sync up somehow. I kind of get the single threading thing as far as the code, but not really, because if you can run on multiple computers and sync things up and run it, why would you not be able to run it on one computer and sync things up? It should, in theory, be faster and easier to do that. Even if you're using some sort of, inter-process communication channel instead of IP or something, it just makes no sense to me that they can't get this. And I'd be willing to spend $40-50 more per monitor, maybe, like for the side monitors, not for these pop out windows. I'm not going to pay $30 or $40 for each of these, but to run the full screen simulation on a couple extra monitors, I get it. Maybe it takes some work to get it to run, with IPC communication and multiple processes running, but they do that already over IP. So over a network, why not do it on the same computer? So now I'm getting 27, just not bad, so I've got pretty good settings here now, but watch what happens when I turn on two side monitors. This is the real killer, and I have no idea why. Let's look at our GPU first before we get over there. GPU, 54, 53. I mean, pretty respectable. Memory's gone up a bit. Now, CPU climbed for a moment. I don't know why, but it did. Actually, I throw these overlays on here, and this is down to 23, which is not acceptable for running the game. But that's because I have these two overlaying it. But now let's turn on one side screen again and see what happens. Actually, it lost the settings. This is annoying. I turned it off, and now I've got to reset all the offsets again. Real pain. They should fix that too. Because depending on the scenario you're running, if we have to live with it this way, sometimes I may want to have the side screens on, low resolution set, and practice landings, but I don't know, I'm doing a cross-country IFR flight or something, and I want to focus more on the instruments, then maybe I turn the side screens off, but I shouldn't have to reset these positions every single time. That's kind of bogus. So let's look at our frame rate now. So we're down to 17, which is terrible. Let's get rid of this setup window, make sure. Yeah, we're down to 16. And let's see what's our bottleneck right now. CPU is up, but again, not 100%. And GPU is dropping, probably because it's CPU bound. The CPU is not feeding it as much data as it can process, is what I'm going to guess. But I just don't get that this is not maxed out. It's not even at 90%. And it's affecting the frame rate drastically. And now if we turn on the other monitor again, okay, again, lost the settings I had, and we're down to 11 frames per second. So just abysmal performance with any kind of real graphics settings that you would want to run this at. I think I might be willing to turn down. And again, it's not even GPU bound. That's the thing. Even with all these graphics settings turned up, it's not GPU bound. It's something to do with the CPU being used, but not even fully used. I just don't get it. And of course now it's saying, rendering options are too high. But the thing is, it's not the rendering options that are too high. That's very misleading to say that, because that's what I wound up playing with initially. But the reality is it's the fact that I'm running two side screens. And I don't know why it would take any more CPU to do that. Honestly, it should just be a view in the GPU into the environment, I would think. But, I'm not an expert.